Kazuha is coming out. I know a lot of you guys are excited for him, and that's super awesome. If you want Kazuha just because he's your favorite looking character, he looks super cool, you like the autumn theme, awesome. Never let anyone dissuade you from pulling from a character if you like them aesthetically, if they're your favorite character, just based on how you feel about them. That's totally fine. But that's not what this video is about. There's 3 big reasons you guys really need to think about if you really actually want to pull for Kazuha, if you're pulling for him for a power standpoint. We're going to be going over them in this video, so strap yourselves in. Let's go. Now, the first thing you have to understand about Kazuha is he is that mainstay, main job, main role, Anemo support character. I know you guys said, but he's a sub DPS. We'll get into that as well, because for a lot of you guys, that's going to be way out of anything you guys could reasonably achieve in Genshin. So the main thing that Kazuha does that no one else can do here, and the thing that makes him different than all the other Anemo supports, is his second ascension. This is going to allow him to give your whole teammates a damage percent bonus based on his elemental mastery stat. So for every 1 elemental mastery that you do have, he's going to give your team a 0.04% damage increase. So if you have 1,000 elemental mastery, 40% damage bonus. That sounds like a lot, and yeah, it is pretty good, but we'll touch on that one in a minute here. But you need to understand that this is what he's known for. He's not there to do a whole bunch of damage. He's not there to do a whole bunch of crazy stuff. He's there to swap in Trigger Swirl, where the Viridescent Venerus set that we have access to right now, right? Because he's your Anemo character. He's going to give that resist down, and he's going to give a damage percent bonus at the same time. That sounds super awesome. No one else can do that, can they? Or can they? And I already hear you guys in the comments below, I'm building him as a sub DPS. No other character can really do that in Genshin. He's going to be really hard to do that sort of build with, and don't worry, we're going to be getting to that one as well. The main uniqueness of Kazuha is giving that damage percent bonus to your characters, right? No one else can do that. Well, actually, someone else can do that, because if you're playing the game, you're using an Anemo support, right? You want to lower the resistance to different elements in your party. And a lot of the time when you have an Anemo support in your party, you're also doing Vaporize, you're also doing Melt, right? You're doing these big elemental reactions. And here's the thing, don't forget 1.6 is also buffing up the amount of damage bonus that you get, not on Vaporize and not on Melt, but also on all the other ones, Superconduct, Overload, Electrolyze. All of those are getting huge buffs for the elemental mastery stat, and the elemental mastery stat is giving you large amounts of damage bonuses when it comes to that stat. So who can do this? Who can do a damage percent bonus? It's none other than the girl Sucrose. Sucrose can do a damage percent bonus, not directly, but through her EM that she gives with her own ascensions, as well as her skills, because she can wear the Viridescent Venerus set as well. So she's got the swirl, she's got the Viridescent set down, and she's going to give you a damage percent bonus as a 4-star that can equal to or even surpass the ones that Kazuha can do, especially after 1.6 for the other reactions in your party. It's going to be insane. So just check this out. In 1.5, if you have 100 elemental mastery right now, you're going to get a damage bonus to Vaporize and Melt of 18.6%. If you go up to 500 elemental mastery, that 18.6% damage bonus goes all the way up to 73.1% damage bonus, which is just wild. And this is to the Melt and Vaporize damage calculation. This is very, 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 very powerful. So Kazuha would give you 40% to your attack, and then that would get multiplied by your Melt and Vaporize in your own EM. Sucrose is going to give you that giant EM buff and give you a massive amount of damage. You can still crit with your Melt, with your Vaporize attack, and then you're going to get 71% on top of that instead of 18%. So this is a character who does comparable damage bonus boosts to Melt and Vaporize teams that Kazuha can do, and he's a 5-star, Sucrose is a 4-star, so definitely think about that. But also, 1.6 with that EM change, you can see here, in 1.5 if you have 500 elemental mastery, you are going to be doing 175% damage bonus to the non-Vaporize and non-Melt reactions. However, with 501.6, you're going to do 320% bonus damage to Swirl, Electrocharge, Shatter, Superconduct, which can help you guys out a lot, especially if you're running some of these different weird teams out there, like the Electrocharged, super awesome team with Fischl and Beto and our boy Bennett and Child. That's a very strong team out there. And so this is just something you guys really need to think about, right? Kazuha does give that damage bonus, but there's already someone in the game that can kind of do what he does do, right? Sucrose has a little bit of CC, Kazuha has a little bit of CC, crowd control, and they both buff your damage in certain ways. Now, obviously, if you're using Kazuha and not a reaction team, maybe you're on like a double Anemo, double Geo team, you're super off meta, that's cool, and that's where he's going to shine more for sure, because you're not doing any reactions in a double Anemo, double Geo team. I got it. All right. I beat you down before you put it down in the comments section. But if you're running any sort of reaction team, you really need to think about if those hard-earned Primo Gems are what you need to be spending on Kazuha when you might have someone that can already do that. And so maybe it's just better for you to save those Primos for someone later on down the line. I don't want to see you guys using your Primo Gems on someone that you think you need to have for your team because you don't have a 5-star Anemo support. That's not the thing there. So here's the last one. You guys might hate this one, but Kazuha is going to be ridiculously hard to gear. So if you're someone out there trudging through domains saying, I can never get a good piece of gear to drop, let's run some of these numbers by you real quick and let's see how much you like thinking about gearing this character. So Kazuha, he needs Elemental Mastery. He has to have as much as possible. That's his whole shtick and caboodle, right? He wants as much EM for himself so he can give that damage bonus to everyone else. Very similar to Sucrose. But Sucrose doesn't need to run herself as a support DPS. You can run her straight up as an EM buffer. And you can do that with Kazuha too. But if this doesn't sound good to you and this doesn't sound fun to you, let me know. Now the Goblet, when you pick up a Goblet, it can roll HP percent, attack percent, defense percent, all the different elements / physical percents, but it can also roll Elemental Mastery. Now all in each individual elemental damage bonus has a 5% chance to drop. Elemental Mastery has a 2.5% chance to drop. It is the lowest main stat roll that you can get on a Goblet. It's going to show up the least amount of time. It's half as often going to occur than any other singular element. It's ridiculously rare. Now, the same thing goes for the Circlet here, but even worse for the Circlet. Circlet HP is a 22% drop rate, attacks a 22% drop rate, defense is a 22% drop rate, crit chance is 10, crit damage is 10, healing is 10. What do you think Elemental Mastery is? 5? No, you're wrong, son. It's 4%. 4% drop rate to get an Elemental Mastery Circlet on this character. The Sans is the same thing. It has a 10% chance to drop main stat Elemental Mastery. And so you say, oh, Sucrose is that too if you want to really max out her EM. That is true. But this is going for the people where I'm going to run sub DPS Kazuha. And here comes the kicker when it comes to Kazuha. Now, not only are these different Elemental Mastery main stats really hard to come by, rightfully so, same thing for Sucrose. But if you're going to try to run him as a sub DPS, he needs to crit, he needs crit damage, he wants attack percent, and you're not going to have that Anemo Goblet either. So if you're going to run him sub DPS, while still fulfilling his main job, you're going to have to roll an Elemental Mastery Goblet, 2.5% chance for it to roll Elemental Mastery, and then you have to get down on your knees and pray that it rolls crit chance, crit damage, attack percent, same thing for the Circlet, same thing for the Sans. It's the rarest drop in the entirety of Genshin Impact when it comes to artifact main stats. By far, bar none. And if you want to get a perfect one, now you need to get that thing to drop Elemental Mastery with the right substats, and then you need it to drop 4 rolls, and then you need your rolls to go into the right ones, and then on top of that, you need those rolls to roll high, or at least mid to high each time, so you can actually have your guy start participating and doing damage. No, it doesn't sound fun to anyone. I don't think anyone thinks that sounds fun. Do you think that sounds fun? It'd be a task. You should go in a Hall of Fame if you get that completed, but let me know if that sounds fun to you. Not that you can't do it, but even then, even if you do it, the amount of damage that he puts out really isn't going to be insane because you're going to be having him geared up. No Anemo Goblet. There's not a lot of ways to go ahead and reduce Anemo resistance. He doesn't have one. Not at C0. All the other Anemo supports don't have one. Not at C0. Not at C0. I guess the Traveler counts, but that's technically still not C0, but you can get that constellation pretty easy. I already see it coming down in the comment section below. I'm not running an EM Goblet. I'm gonna run an Anemo Goblet. I'm not running an EM Circlet. I'm running a crit chance Circlet. The more you do that, yeah, the more damage and the easier it is he's gonna be building, but you're going to be losing out on 300, 350, 400 Elemental Mastery at the end of the day, and now you're taking away from his supportive role just so you can see a guy crit a little bit more. And at that point in time, what is he really doing there? Can you have fun doing that? For sure. Can you beat stuff up doing that? For sure. Is it better than a support Sucrose doing that, where you can just have your main DPS do a ton of extra damage, or just build your Kazuha for big EM and have your main DPS do a bunch of extra damage? To tell you the truth, the hard, honest truth, it's just not better, right? You want to make those compromises so your Kazuha looks cooler and looks like he's doing more stuff, but he would have been doing more stuff for your party just in a full support build. And on top of that, all of this effort is really kind of going to waste because his big daddy damage doesn't really come out until Constellation 6. His Elemental Burst has some nice dot damage on it. His elemental skill has some cool stuff on it. But if you're out there jumping around with this plunging attack, it's gonna be really fun to play, by the way. All of this time, you're jumping around doing your plunge attack, doing like suboptimal DPS. I mean, you just be in your other character doing a whole bunch of extra damage. But if you do have Constellation 6, that is when you would go and say, okay, I'm gonna put all of my effort into stacking Elemental Mastery everywhere, get all the perfect rolls, get all the perfect substats, all of that stuff, because Constellation 6 is another EM benefit for Kazuha. And this is going to allow you to do a lot of damage to him. And it's probably one of the best constellations in the entirety of Genshin Impact. This is because when you go ahead and you use a couple of your elemental skills or your elemental burst, it's going to buff him up for a lot of stuff. Okay, so it's going to give him Anemo infusion, so he's always doing Anemo damage. And then every single point of elemental mastery that you have is going to give Kazuha 0.2% damage increase. So for every 10 elemental mastery you have, you get 2%. For every 100 elemental mastery you have, you get 20%. So if you have that 1000 elemental mastery build, it's going to increase your damage by 200%. And that's going to be a whopping thing. So those are the kind of people that are going to be looking really cool. You're going to see a lot of cool stuff coming out from Kazuha, and that's going to take a lot of work and a lot of constellations. That's Constellation 6. And if you have that, yeah, you can run him as your main support, and he's definitely worth the effort to do so. But until then, guys, you really need to think, do you want to put that much time in there when you have somebody that can kind of just fulfill that role in the form of Sucrose as a 4-star? She's going to buff up the damage you do with your elemental reactions because she gives other people elemental mastery instead of like Kazuha taking the old elemental mastery and just making it a damage percent bonus. They kind of do the same thing as long as you're running an elemental reaction build, whether it's Melt and Vaporize or Overload or Electrolyze, whatever it is, they can fulfill a lot of the same things, and that can save you a lot of Primogems pulling for a 5-star character. Save your pity. I just wanted to get that out there, guys. Remember, once again, this was not a video to say Kazuha's garbage, right? He's trash. No one should pull from any of that stuff. It's just there to say, are you wanting to put in this amount of time on this character where you probably have another easy access alternative that can do a lot of the same things for that character? So if you want to see more stuff on Genshin Impact, guys, come on back for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one.